Hello, everybody, and welcome back for our last block of speakers in the People track for TIPE 2022. Our next speaker is going to be covering a very important topic to our industry, and it's one that she and her company absolutely know a lot about. So I would like to welcome to the stage Erika Berg from Carbon to discuss what makes a great additive manufacturing partner. Erika, welcome. The stage is yours.
Hi, thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Erika Berg, and I'm the Managing Director of Application and Business Development at Carbon. Really excited to share with you some of the best practices and some of my personal experiences in working with customers in additive manufacturing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right into it. So before we go into the heart of things, I'd love to share a little bit about myself for you to get to know me better. I actually did not start my career in additive manufacturing. I studied aerospace engineering at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and started my career at the Boeing company, designing commercial airplanes. So, many years ago, I designed back of the paper napkin aircraft in the new airplane product development department. And I also worked on the 787 derivative programs. So if you're a fan of commercial aircraft, you may notice in the top right corner, there's a photo of me in front of line number 3 aircraft. That's the third 787 to be manufactured. That photo is from 2012 when I participated in the Dream Tour of the 787, a global tour where the airplane went air show to air show for the first time. And I can tell you one of my career highlights was sitting in the cockpit of that aircraft, flying over the Andes Mountains on my way to Chile for the FIDE show. It was pretty cool. You don't get to sit in the cockpit of aircraft, let alone flying over this beautiful mountain range. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed my time and learned a lot at the Boeing company. But after a number of years, I decided to take the next step in my career, and I attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I spent 2 years in the full-time MBA program, and after that, had the opportunity to join Deloitte's Strategy and Operations General Management Consulting practice. Of course, a selfie says 1,000 words, and that's a selfie of me drinking coffee as consultants do to survive. But during my time there, I focused on supply chain innovation and transformation projects for Fortune 500 companies. And finally, where I am now, I joined Carbon over 4 years ago, where I've spent my time pulling together my engineering, product development, and consulting background, and partnering with our most innovative additive manufacturing customers to make better products in less time. And it's been quite the ride, and I'm so honored to be here to share some of my personal experiences and learnings from engagements with our customers. I'm going to give you a brief introduction on the Carbon platform. I know the focus for today's session isn't on the technology itself, but it is relevant and very important. So Carbon manufactures the hardware, materials, and the software to create high-performance, fully isotropic 3D printed parts. From a hardware perspective, we have machines that suit the needs of our broad base of customers, from those doing low volume, high mix production or prototyping using our M2s, to high volume production using the L1s. And the hardware are cloud connected devices, and customers receive over the air software updates to the equipment so that they can continuously benefit from the latest improvements to the systems and their printing operations. And then Carbon also creates the materials for the printing of the parts, including some rigid, flexible, elastomeric thermoset, dual cure materials that have exceptional surface finish and are used for final production applications. In addition to the software that powers the machine and controls the printing process, Carbon recently launched a cloud-based lattice generation software. And this is what my team has used over the last few years while partnering with some of the customers you see here to create their next generation portfolio of products. Now, in my opinion, this is what truly distinguishes Carbon in the additive manufacturing space, the ability to integrate hardware, materials, software, leverage the combination of all of those, and the ability to design and manufacture in a single platform products that would not be easily designed or made using traditional methods. There's no other end-to-end platform where you can create and print final finished parts that meet the engineering requirements, the quality control, and the specifications of highly innovative companies like the ones you see here. Customers who are producing consumer products that are sold on shelf in retail stores. You can walk into a store and buy them today. And my team has partnered with innovative companies like these to bring better products to market in less time. So I'm going to share with you today the top 3 characteristics or ways of working that our best customers and even our internal teams have embodied when working on these and supporting these additive manufacturing transformation projects and partners. The first of these, the most important, is having a clearly defined vision or goal. In order to achieve success in any project, additive or not, you have to really know what success looks like. Now, it's really important for success criteria to be something that comes from the top down, whether that's the CEO or executive leadership, whether they have a vision and relay that to their teams, and then their teams create incremental success criteria to get to that ultimate goal. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, right? SMART goals are a good place to start when you're thinking about how do I define objective success criteria. But ultimately, our best partners know what they want, and they know when something is good enough or great. Sometimes success can seem subjective, but the best teams figure out how to bring objective milestones to guide their paths to move forward. So I'm going to highlight one of the customers that did this really well, and that's Specialized. They approached us a number of years ago to make a world-class bike saddle, revolutionize bike saddles. And this is something that, you know, initially at first look, you might think making something more comfortable might be a little subjective. But Specialized in their expertise, their product managers and their entire department really know how to take something that might seem subjective and put clear-cut success criteria that enabled our teams to work closely and efficiently together in order to create an awesome product that I love. And I love riding on this bike saddle. It is hands down the most comfortable saddle I have ever ridden. So how did they do that? Well, the way that they clearly defined their product goals started from the top of improving rider health and well-being. Now that broke down into clear success criteria for the team to focus on. That included sit bone comfort and the ability to lower sit bone pressure, the pressure exerted on your sit bones when you're sitting down on an object or the bike saddle. It also included increasing pelvic stability to make sure that you didn't have any unwanted motion or rocking while having a more comfortable ride, and increasing soft tissue blood flow in that really sensitive area around the sit bone space and the tissue in that area. Now, what's great about this is they were able to, again, focus on how do I make something more comfortable, which could be subjective, right? People say it's comfortable, it's not. But they turned it into objective criteria that they could measure, take pressure mapping, do a series of rides and tests with professional athletes to determine objectively which saddles are better, and using our technology, which design helps improve the final product. This ultimately was what drove Specialized to create a superior product that has sold out online. It's really difficult to find in stores because it is so much more comfortable and it is a superior product overall. The second criteria that I think is really important is having a find a way attitude. Now, obstacles and roadblocks are inevitable in any endeavor that you're doing, in any, especially in transformation projects or in using additive manufacturing to replace traditional manufacturing methods. It's inevitable to face some kind of roadblock or obstacle, stumble across something that you didn't think about in your initial success criteria, or maybe need to redefine the success criteria based on data that you're uncovering or learning as you go. But ultimately, having that find a way attitude is what's critical in additive manufacturing partnerships in order to be successful. This is something that I often iterate to my team, the application engineers on my team, to emphasize, if you see a roadblock or something that's in your way, it's important to figure out, how can I get around that? What else is possible? What other trade studies or iterations can be done in order to get to the final end goal? Now, a customer that, and an application that I really think embodies the find a way attitude is the Riddell team and our partnership in creating the SpeedFlex Precision Fit Diamond Helmet. Now, this is the number one, when we were working with them, we partnered with them to create the #1 football helmet based on the NFL rankings. And it's a custom scanned and custom printed helmet where the padding inside of the helmet is particular to each professional athlete. And these helmets are still used on field. Oftentimes, I'll be watching football games, and when a professional athlete kind of turns their head, you can still see the lattice inside of the helmet. But ultimately, what made this product great and what made this partnership and engagement great was the way that our teams had a true find a way attitude to move forward. We did this and we had a strong focus on finding ways to move forward, because we were able to create and modify hardware, software, and materials that we had in order to launch this product. The Riddell team was so open to partnering us with, the data that they had, really teaching us, the background and experience that they had with their professional athletes, and what made and drives a good performing helmet. And in partnership, we were able to modify one of the materials, create a new material to meet the product requirements and the energy damping requirements in order to better protect athletes. We did hundreds of iterations on lattice designs. And you saw earlier this, I'll replay this, the simulation of various lattice structures that are simulated on each pad to determine the optimal design for each pad throughout the helmet. And there are various areas of the helmet that are fine-tuned with different lattice structures in order to ultimately create an excellent, superior performing helmet. And not only did we work together to move forward through finding, of the thousands of iterations of lattice designs, which one worked, repeated testing and iteration, making new materials, creating the software workflow. We also even modified some of our hardware on the L1 to slightly change one of the platforms that we use in order to accommodate all of the pads for the helmet. So inevitably, things would come up throughout the beginning of this program where, we would scratch our heads and say, how do we move forward? What's next? What should we do as a team? And the Riddell team was so steadfast in partnering with us, and just a pleasure to work with because of their find a way attitude, and ultimately led us as a combined team to create the #1 helmet on the 2020 NFL rankings. Now, the third one that I will mention is having an inherent sense of urgency. And I added a quote in here from Mr. Ricky Bobby, if you guys are familiar with the movie Talladega Nights. He mentions in there, if you're not first, you're last. And this is something I just thought would be, a little fun to bring up during this presentation. But ultimately, what's really important is having a sense of urgency to move quickly and to deliver products at unprecedented speeds, better products in faster time. Ultimately, the best partners are ones who have clear goals, have good find a way attitudes, but they want to move quickly. They want to be #1. They want to be the first to release a new product or bring it to market. That's what makes a great partner, because they have this inherent sense of urgency to move quickly. Now, for this point, I'll highlight a partnership that we have with CCM. CCM also wanted to make the first ever NHL helmet certified to be on ice. And they had a clear definition of goals that they wanted for their custom helmet. They wanted superior breathability, improved comfort and fit, and improved protection, elite protection. And this is done by using over 130,000 tiny little lattice struts that absorb the energy throughout impacts, throughout these athletes' play and time on ice. And again, going back to the ability to fine-tune designs and make parts that could not be designed or manufactured through traditional methods. This is one that, again, leverages the unique advantages of the carbon platform. For the custom helmet, we were able to, within 7 months, move from first conversation to being on ice. But after the custom helmet, the CCM team launched the SuperTex X with Nestec, and this was a stock product, or is a stock product, that is still available today in stores. You can walk into a Pure Hockey or various retail stores and buy one of these on shelf today. But what really set this team apart was their ability to move quickly in unprecedented times at the beginning of COVID. So the retail helmet was based on and leveraged the knowledge gained from the custom helmet that I showed in the prior slide. The teams used similar principles for the superior design, but you can see in this timeline here that the CCM carbon team really sprinted through, and they were able to work quickly and diligently to complete the retail helmet design in less than 6 months, inclusive of COVID delays. So there were unprecedented hurdles and circumstances that we could not avoid impacting, the global economy and manufacturing, but the team still found creative ways to engage in virtual meetings, execute on design iterations, print, test, provide feedback as quickly as possible, as quickly as they were able to, despite having limited operations within both Carbon and CCM's facilities. Now, they knew they had to meet the hockey season. They had to get parts validated, start production. The team had a complete sense of urgency because they knew every minute was critical to launching this product and ultimately getting it in stores and on shelf for retail purchase. I really love this example because it's a true testament to the power of digital manufacturing in a time where you just can't be on site together, but you're able to leverage the digital aspect from remote locations across the world, manufacturing facilities, design facilities, your R&D facilities, in order to move as quickly as possible to launch a product. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to open it up to the audience if there are any questions, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. But hopefully, based on these three areas, you'll gain some insights into your next additive manufacturing transformation or partnership that you may have, whether you have something you're working with your internal teams or with external partners or customers.
Awesome. Erika, thank you so much. That was really illuminating. And I know we all appreciate your time and expertise. We do have a few minutes for questions, and we do have some questions in for you. Anyone with us live, do feel free to add some more to the Q&A tab if something else pops up for you. Our top voted question right now is, do you recommend getting an MBA for business development careers?
Oh, yeah, good question. I would say, depending on what your career ambitions are and where you come from, an MBA is a very personal, decision, and a lot of people weigh opportunity costs. Should I leave my career, the workforce temporarily to gain this other experience? I would say for me, I was very grateful for the opportunity to go to business school full time. Pivoting from aerospace engineering to go into a business space, it was incredibly helpful for me to gain a breadth of exposure, do an internship in a completely different field, and ultimately gave me the contacts and connections to enter in a completely different, and prepared me to enter in a completely different field, which was management consulting. So coming from my background, it was very critical. But again, it's a case-by-case thing. It's really dependent on your situation and what your career aspiration goals are. But I'm very glad that I did it.
It's a very well-rounded view of it. So definitely appreciate the realism in there.
Sure.
Next up, we've got one in asking, how do you recommend working with customers that already have the design established but want to print it instead of traditional manufacturing methods?
Yeah, so we have a number of customers that approach us and are interested in printing their existing designs. Another thing I didn't mention at the beginning of my presentation was our ecosystem of partners. So, we make the products, but we're not usually manufacturing the parts. We have an ecosystem of contract manufacturers or service bureaus that are providing printing services for customers who may or may not be ready to bring in a printer yet. And so that's also an option for our customers. But I will say, often we find that parts that are designed for traditional manufacturing methods are optimized for traditional manufacturing methods. So when we engage with our partners, we do ask a series of questions and roll our sleeves up in a series of workshops to understand what are their true product goals and requirements. And are there design changes or modifications that need to be put in place in order to have a successful outcome? Most of the times, it's highly likely that there are changes that should be made to optimize for the manufacturing method, because designers are, just used to traditional manufacturing methods, and that's how they design. So often that is what we do. However, there is an ecosystem of partners who can manufacture your parts and have them made if you have an existing design that you'd like to be made using carbon DLS.
Okay, great. Our next question in for you asks, do you approach partners or do they come to you?
Both. Yeah, a little bit of both. Sometimes we have, partners who see an announcement or a product launch and they reach out to us and say, hey, I'm interested. On our website, we do have a way for customers to submit parts to be made. And so we have a number of customers who approach us and they're interested in bringing in the technology, doing manufacturing or R&D themselves within their four walls. And also in partnership with that, sometimes we're designing things with them. We also sometimes approach customers if we know that our technology or feel confident that our technology would be a good fit. And so, sometimes we're also approaching customers to say, hey, we have an idea. Is this something that you'd be interested in doing with us? So it's both.
Yeah, great. And finally, we have one asking about the CCM project specifically, saying what helped it move forward so quickly? Was it communication, technology, ...
Yeah, I would say it was all of the above. I am so proud of the team and their level of commitment. We did have predefined milestones on what needed to be accomplished by when. That's going back to the first one of clearly set up your success criteria and know what you're working towards. So we knew that there was a hard deadline where we had to meet certain designs in order to hit that season of products. And knowing that, the team stayed really focused on doing whatever they could, sending emails, doing Zoom calls. Again, this was the beginning of COVID, so the Zoom virtual meetings weren't as popular as they were now. At that time, it was something that was really unprecedented. Now, after 2 years of doing Zoom calls, we're quite used to them. But at the time, the team, did whatever they could to get on a call, get on video, FaceTime, whatever they could to connect as closely as possible while having to stay distant and apart.
Okay, great. Well, clearly that all came together beautifully and came to market quickly.
Yeah.
So, kudos to both teams involved in bringing that to fruition in a difficult time.
Thank you.
And now, Erika, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your perspectives. We're really grateful to have had you join us for TIPE 2022.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It was a